Good night, and welcome to a News 5 special bulletin. Tonight, Good night, and welcome to a News 5 special bulletin. Tonight, we'll look back at newsworthy events that made the past 12 months another memorable year. 2022 has been chock full of important stories that have been covered in our nightly newscast. In our annual recap, we'll highlight a number of news items that stood out across various categories of reporting, including agriculture, crime and violence, environment, features, finance, health, politics, and sports.
The execution of Winston Joseph Tanga James on the morning of January 21st sent shockwaves across Belize City. The well-known street figure had just left the courthouse a few blocks away. As he drove an SUV in the company of Mary Beth Wade, the 33-year-old was blindsided in a shower of bullets near the corners of Prince Street and West Canal. The injuries that James received during the armed assault more terminal.
The father of four, it is believed, was on the wrong side of town when he was ambushed. In October 2021, Tanga would become a viral sensation yet again when two women, including Mary Beth Wade, would go on a profane social media rant, arguing over him. The online spot coined the popular expression entanglement. This was while he was purportedly locked up at the Belize Central Prison. But his cousin, who spoke with us off camera, chose to remember him for the caring person he was.
Anyone that wanted anything, he will always find a way to help them. That is him. Who didn't know Tanga, that is the good part of him. We don't know nothing that he did. We don't know nothing that he do. People talk things about him and say a lot about him. But he's a nice person. He never show us no bad side of him. He have his friends. He have people that he always talk to. But his family was the main important thing to him.
Several months later, an audio recording reportedly of a telephone conversation between Wade and another known gang boss began making its rounds on social media. The clip would later find its way into the possession of Commissioner of Police Chester Williams.
We have idea as to who the suspect or suspects are in respect to Tanga's murder. I guess by now the entire Belizean populace have heard a voice clip that was going around with a particular gang leader and Mary Beth. It is assumed that they are the two persons in that voice clip, and certain information was shared. We are looking at those information that were shared to see if we can confirm the information therein. But it is going to be extremely hard for various reasons, but it is an investigation the police is still looking at this time.
Perhaps even more shocking was an incident involving gross police negligence and misconduct that took place at a popular community festival in Corozal District.
A family from Cristoray Village, Corozal District, including the entire community, is mourning the unthinkable, inhumane death of one of their own as a criminal and internal investigation is being carried out by the Belize Police Department.
It's a shocking event or shocking story, more or less, more than anything, because it's a relative. So for me to get a bad news like that, and in this situation which had happened, everything, that makes it like unbelievable, no? Like many are saying it right now, they can't believe it. How will you forget someone in a vehicle for so much time, especially at the police department? So, well, it's sad for the family. I am a family to them, so I have the same feelings for him and for the family too. No?
20-year-old Derek O was socializing here on Saturday night at the San Joaquin Fiesta. Sometime after midnight, he was detained by police and placed inside a prison van about 100 yards from where I'm standing. It is inside that van that O would lose his life.
The officers were working in San Joaquin Feast Saturday night, during which they had detained a young man who apparently was under the influence. You would know San Joaquin do not have a police station, and so there's no detention cell there. So what they did was to put him in the back of the police prison van. Now, for those of you who know the prison van, the back of those vans are sealed, properly sealed, and it requires the engine to be running for there to be ventilation in the portion where prisoners are normally kept. And so while they were at the the grounds, the van was on, and so there was ventilation.
O was inside the police van for over 12 hours. The van, which remains parked in front of the Corozal police station, was left in the sweltering heat, and there was no form of ventilation. To understand how hot inside the van was, data from weather stations in the Corozal district recorded that maximum temperatures on Sunday were in the range of 88 to 91 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's for shaded and ventilated areas. Reports to News 5 are that O was discovered shirtless with blisters on his body. A copy of a police report has been circulating online that chronicles what happened over the weekend in San Joaquin when 20-year-old Derek O was detained by police. A diarist on duty at the event logged his detention and that of another individual, Alonzo Kawa, a resident of San Joaquin Village. A debriefing was held by Inspector Isaias Sanchez, who informed the officers that Kawa was to be released, while O was to be taken to the Corozal police station to be processed for an investigation relating to an alleged assault of a female. The tragedy has rocked the department.
It is truly an unthinkable travesty, something that none of us could ever fathom could possibly take place, and a series of missteps and mishaps that has resulted in this absolutely heinous tragedy. We will ensure that this is a thorough, comprehensive, and fully transparent investigation into this, what I have to categorize as a wrongful death instance. Up to this time, there is nothing to suggest that there was any intentional killing of Derek O. I want to make that clear. As of this point, there is a post-mortem examination which will be conducted, which will certainly give a lot of information towards this investigation, and so we're looking forward to that, to the outcome of that post-mortem.
Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa says that 6 officers are on suspension pending the investigation into the negligent death of the youth at the hands of the police.
12 statements have been recorded, and from initially the initial statements that the police have gathered so far, the police has actually determined that 6 officers, not necessarily all of them we can categorically state are guilty of any offense, but there are 6 officers that are being questioned at the moment, and certainly you can expect not just charges in terms of a criminal tribunal at the police level, but also criminal charges in our court system.
On the night of November 17th, a grandmother would happen upon a ghastly scene moments after gunshots were heard in Sandhill village.
We hear the gunshot, but I may think that like we are down at the junction yonder, it may sound like to me. And I tell she, because she made the home with me, I said, a girl gunshot. And she said, no, mommy. I said, dynamite. I said, dynamite, then don't start Christmas.
Unbeknownst to her, the sharp blasts that echoed across the neighborhood were lethal rounds being fired point blank at her grandson and his 2 friends, including Garcia, who resided at the property.
We make her realize something must happen, because I see the young man, I tell her whether I'm a neighbor. You know, the house over, they sit down. But they bleed by a down head there. Understand me? He had blood cut. So I look in her face and I say something bad must happen. And then I look over, so. But I don't see the 3 of them lay down, but I think they sleep. When I look back, I say, my grandson friend, the back, they don't pay belly too. Then I look for him and I say, blood for him foot like. And he like belly. Then I look so, that my grandson now that I see, lay down for his side so, with his head so, raggy up head. And I bend down and I touch him. If I wonder if that him, but I see like that him. And then when I look in the wrong and wrong, I see all the blood all about everywhere. Then I realize I see blood.
A wooden structure in Sandhill Village, the scene of a triple homicide on November 17th, was reduced to rubbles when it was reportedly set on fire. But was the alleged arson connected to the murders of Emerson Garcia, Charleston Jenkins, and Jareem Davis?
For me to say that that is connected, I'd have to wait for the results from the fire department who are doing an investigation to prove whether it was arson or not. We know that on Friday, police had to go to a scene at mile 19, Sandhill Village. The owner of that house that burned is believed to be in the U.S. So until we get some form of clarity from the fire department, we will reserve to comment on that fire. No?
Sir, well, if indeed the department's investigation says it was an act of arson, how heart-wrenching would that be to the department, given that you guys did 2 walkthroughs in that community following that triple murder? And if indeed it's arson, it may be an act of intimidation.
Well, if it's an act of intimidation, then I'm certain that our investigators will be able to prove it. I can tell you that we have made every effort to make Sandhill Village safe for the law-abiding citizens of that village. We have recently gotten a police vehicle to patrol also in that area. We have increased personnel, and we will continue to do our work with diligence.
Admittedly, party politics is all the intrigue, and 2022 hasn't been short of moments that either left us scratching our heads or thinking to ourselves, this can't be happening. But it happened, and it did so shockingly, in real time, from the spectacular fall from grace of Patrick Farber, his verbal resignation amid another domestic violence scandal.
The new rules and the new way of the world has made it available for you to make pronouncements and say certain things without necessarily actually putting it in writing. So the Honorable Patrick Farber, was a member of the House. He's a member of the House and was certainly a member of the House when that act was passed. I was a member of the Senate when the act was passed. It was signed by Governor General Salam, so it's a fairly recent act. So I have to believe that when he made the pronouncements publicly to the world that he would be doing that January 31st, I have to believe that he knew that that would be effective, even though a physical letter was not actually sent to myself or the Secretariat. So indeed, the NPC accepted his resignation, and we decided to move on and set new dates for our new leader of the party to be voted in.
To the sudden rise of Shine Barrow, leader of the opposition and the United Democratic Party.
256 in favor of Honorable Barrow and 253 in favor of Honorable Panther.
Shine Barrow's meteoric rise to the highest office in the United Democratic Party, in a victory clinched only by a hair's breadth, is the fastest ascent to the leadership of a political organization in Belize's history. The rapper turned politician was the favored candidate going into Sunday's convention. Many thought that Barrow would have won decisively, but his opponent, Tracy Panton, came within a few votes of an upset.
Michael Jordan has won championships by one basket. So it's nothing new in life. The party is a healthy reflection of democracy. I think we handled ourselves pretty well. There wasn't a lot of mudslinging, any at all. Kept it internal. And, Tracy and I have been in touch all throughout for parliamentary matters. Today when she walked in, I hugged her. When I walked past her, as we're both campaigning today, we would say hello to each other, and we shook hands and we hugged and we embraced, and we will move forward.
Many would argue, however, that the party has done everything but move forward harmoniously. In the intervening time, Patrick Faber and Tracy Panton would launch an unsuccessful campaign to recall Shine Barrow before the Collett-era representative would find himself frozen out of his own constituency.
There are serious issues, serious infighting within the party. I will tell you that categorically. I think that the various different posts that people make on social media, but also if you go and you talk to people on the streets every day, they will tell you that this party, the United Democratic Party, which we all love so dearly, in fact, is at one of the lowest points, if not the lowest points that this party has ever been. It is the most divided that this party has ever been. And so all of us who are right-minded must be very concerned.
More recently, we've all been enthralled by John Saldivar's melodrama. Since the designation by the United States State Department, he too has broken his radio silence.
At no time have I participated in any corruption at the Immigration Department while I was the minister, or even before or after. And there can never be any proof brought out against me in that respect. I challenge the United States government to provide that proof. I have no difficulty in facing a trial, whether here in Belize or abroad in the US, once those evidence are presented to me, so that I may answer properly. I am not a corrupt person. As a matter of fact, I have conducted myself in public life. You would almost want to say that, as the saying in Creole goes, Maklala look like snake for me when it comes to corrupt acts. I have guarded my reputation. Unfortunately, incidences like the one with Lev Derman, again, where I was not involved in any corruption, have cast aspersions on my reputation.
Earlier this year, the church also took on the colossal job of garnering at least 18,000 signatures to trigger a referendum on a controversial piece of law that was introduced by the Bressenu administration. Weed, despite its discrimination in small quantities, remains a divisive issue, and the religious community wouldn't allow the passage of the legislation without putting up a fight, even if it was somewhat belated.
The church plays an important role in the nation as it relates both to the morality of any issue as well as to the legality of an issue, because every Belizean should have a say in what is legislated.
It is on this basis that the church is distributing a petition in hopes of getting 18,000 signatures that would trigger a referendum.
It is right to say that the debate is raging. Political parties, unions, business community, the man on the street, the churches have a right to participate in that debate. And the Constitution also calls that any matter can be brought to referendum based upon a particular trigger of signatures.
The greatest hurdle religious leaders are facing is time. They only have until April 11th to get those 18,000 signatures. That is the date the government of Belize has agreed to sign the cannabis bill into law. Kari Musa, the Minister for New Growth Industries, says he does not think it is possible for NIAB or anyone else to garner that kind of support by Monday.
I think it's a difficult challenge, Paul. I don't know. I don't think it would be possible. And like I said yesterday, I'm surprised that it would come at such a late stage. We've been putting work into this legislation along with the churches, along with the social partners over the course of the last year. And while it is that one entity, the NEAB, and in particular Pastor Wade, has been requesting a referendum, it is only now when the bill has already passed, not just in the House, but also in the Senate, that we're now hearing a call for a referendum.
Several weeks after launching a countrywide petition, the church did manage to pull off an upset, gathering the requisite number of signatures needed to trigger the cannabis referendum.
I can tell you that in terms of the number of petitions that we received, the total was 20,112 petitions. Of those petitions, a total of 18,891, or 10.07% of the total number of registered electors were accepted. So 18,891 signatures were accepted.
Having completed that phase, Governor General Froilan Salam was written to by Chief Elections Officer Josephine Tamai earlier today, informing her that the threshold has been met successfully.
I certified to the Governor General that the verification of the signatures of the petitioners have been duly signed by at least 10% of the registered electors in the entire country. At the time of presentation of those signatures, the total number of registered electors stood at 187,527 registered electors. Therefore, 10% of that number amounted to 18,753.
But with the hefty price tag of $5 million, the government had other financial plans, and covering the cost of a national vote wasn't among them. The church and the state would later issue a joint statement postponing the push for the referendum, as well as the enactment of the marijuana legislation.
A gradual recession in the number of COVID-19 infections this year meant that the Ministry of Health and Wellness was able to further relax restrictions that kept many of us indoors after hours, or wearing face masks at work, in school, or on the bus. Along with the introduction of vaccines to protect vulnerable populations, including children, from the deadly grasp of COVID, came a moral dilemma for parents.
Reactions from parents are a mixed bag on whether or not they would give consent for their children ages 5 to 11 to be vaccinated against COVID-19. There are those who flatly said no.
Nope.
Why not?
I don't think they need it. Well, I mean, kid immune system more stronger. They could fight it off, you know. Younger they is, the stronger the immune system. I don't really think they kids, that's just my opinion.
So as a parent, your child in school, you're not going to sign that consent form?
That's right.
In my point of view, I would say no, not right now, maybe later on.
Can you explain to me why?
Well, why? Because the side effect of it, I don't think it will work for my kids.
On the other hand, there are those parents who, having been fully vaccinated themselves, say they want that additional layer of protection for their children. They speak to getting children safely back into the classrooms for face-to-face instructions.
I said my kid just get vaccinated because then there's like a regular vaccine they get between the age of 0 to 5. And if it prevents her from having COVID, then I really want my kid back in a school. Because the online schooling that they do here, the benefit as in face-to-face would.
I have 2 children under the age, in the age range of 5 to 11, and I will allow them to take the vaccine because I see it as being very important because this pandemic ain't going nowhere in my view, and things is getting worse, so we have to think about their best interest. Because I took the vaccine, I took both of them even up to the boost, so why not let my children they do it? All right, everything is about their safety and the safety of my elders who are around me also.
So no hesitation.
No hesitation on my part.
And then you have parents that are indecisive. Shanice says that she is not against her son getting the COVID vaccine. She simply needs to give it more thought.
Well, my son is 10 and I'm fully vaccinated, and so far nothing is wrong. I have not just basic flu symptoms. But a child system is recommended. I will, and if it's okay, get their feedback, I will let my child do it.
Now, this is supposed to start on Monday. Will you sign your consent form?
I have to think about it. I have the weekend to think about it.
At the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Belize submitted a proposal to the UN-India Development Partnership Fund to assist the country in its fight against the virulent illness. A $2 million sum was later approved and set aside for the purchase of medical equipment. As the pandemic shifted, the Ministry of Health and Wellness subsequently requested that the objectives of the grant be amended to focus more on infection prevention control for key cocker.
The 3 items on display today are samples of a much larger array of medical equipment that Belize has received through the kind courtesy of the Indian government, channeled through the PAHO WHO office. PAHO WHO representative in Belize, Dr. Noreen Jack, revealed what the donation included.
The equipment included patient monitors, delivery beds, other patient beds, EKG machines, trolleys, incubators. The incinerator will be received late in September, and we anticipate the 2 more coolers by the end of the year. At that time, we'd have accomplished all the grant objectives.
The donation aims to strengthen clinical management of COVID patients and reduce the risk of further spread of the disease. CEO in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Amalia Mai, says that it complements the Ministry of Health's priority areas. According to Mai, it is in times of need that partnerships in international cooperation are most important.
Partnerships like that offered by the fund has therefore been a saving grace through the recovery. The unpredictability of the crisis demanded the fast-track financing adaptability of South cooperation. This is an excellent complement to the prevailing model of development assistance, especially as we work towards resilience and self-reliance.
Dr. Jorge Polanco, the Director of Hospital Services and Allied Health, represented Minister of Health Kevin Bernard.
Equipment will now transition to improved patient care for all patients who visit the health facilities. The incinerator for Kikakar will assist in the proper management and disposal of medical waste. Even though the incinerator was not part of the original proposal, the proposed amendment was accepted by the Indian government, for which we are grateful.
As the echoes of the ringing bell permeated the Dangria Cancer Center and into the neighborhood, it was a signal that yet another child had beaten one of the most deadly diseases in Belize, cancer. For 6-year-old Jaziel Cho and his family, it is a hurdle that they've overcome and a reason to celebrate after 2 years of treatment for the young boy and getting past the anxiety of whether or not he would survive.
I feel like a little more like my life is normalizing because when it hits, everything changes. I had to quit my job. I had to, I couldn't be regular again. And so knowing that we got to this stage, not only for him, but for other children coming behind, I would always encourage them to keep on not losing the faith, because it is possible.
A miracle for the Cho family. Jaziel started exhibiting symptoms from the age of 2, but the COVID pandemic prevented them from getting a diagnosis, and his health condition deteriorated. After months of research, not being able to get out of the country due to travel restrictions, Juan Carlos Cho says he had to make a most difficult decision: leave his wife and other children behind in an attempt to save one of their sons.
We kept random visits to the hospital, not knowing what he had, fever, and infections, and there was never a diagnosis. The last diagnosis we got from Belize was it was a chronic, not a chronic, sorry, anemia, chronic anemia or something. So they had asked us to look for a hematologist, oncologist actually. So we did random visits to neighboring Mexico where we did not have any much luck. Then along came COVID and we're on a national lockdown. I see my child health deteriorating and I'm not sure what to do. As a parent, you're scared. Applied for an emergency exit, and which came like a month after. By then I was a bit worried because he kept bleeding out and we had to start doing transfusions, and I could recall being at the Western Regional Hospital when I got the news that I am able to come out of the country.
Within 2 days, the father rushed Jaziel to Merida, where he was finally diagnosed with lymphoblastic leukemia in June 2020. When he got there, his cancer was in an advanced state and his chances of survival were slim. And as anyone would know, the battle was not as easy.
It was hard though, because I never know if my husband will be back with me or he will bring me with others, like in a coffin, or it was so hard. And I still feel the hurt and I still can't, like if it was yesterday.
As with Jaziel's miraculous story of cancer survival, there were plenty other feel-good stories that were covered this year, including a follow-up on the Macha-Kilha Road, where we met up with Alfonso Putul, who first captivated viewers in 2019 with his difficult journey to sit the primary school exams.
3 years ago, in May of 2019, a News 5 team visited Macha-Kilha village to highlight the plights of students within the community whose journey to school from the village meant negotiating 12 miles of rigorous jungle terrain. At the time, Alfonso Putul was preparing to sit the primary school examinations. In that story, we called attention to the physical challenges that Putul and his peers were faced with, having to travel outside of the village to sit the exams.
I'm from the class of 3 general now. This is my 3rd year for high school. I only have like 1 more year to go before I graduate high school.
Despite the odds, Putul successfully sat the PSCs and is now enrolled at Corazon Creek Technical High School. Some improvements were made to the roadway during Putul's first couple of years in secondary school. It wasn't until May of 2022, however, that the roadway reached Macha-Kilha.
I was actually proud of seeing those workers that build the road to this beautiful village, because since we had really a tough time to communicate with other or go and visit other places, but now it's actually easier and faster to go and let them less dirty of clothes. It is really helping me for my education, and from now I don't have to walk to go to school, and I really appreciate this road that you built for us to go to school.
The Governor General's reception at the Cajalpech Archaeological Site was an event fit for royalty. Plaza B was transformed not only to host Prince William and Catherine, but also to celebrate the rich Maya cultural heritage, foods, marimba music, and the reenactment of the blessing of the event by a cacique.
We're all delighted to be the first stop on the royal tour of the Caribbean in commemoration of Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. Anecdotally, Your Highnesses may find this interesting that this ancient site we now call Cajalpech was in fact the palace of a ruling Mayan family who lived here during the classic period of Mayan civilization. So it's absolutely fitting that we gather in this ancient yet beautiful and sacred spot.
It was during this event that Prince William made a statement conveying the warmest greetings from Queen Elizabeth II, his grandmother. He echoed that Belize remains a jewel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honoured to convey the very warmest wishes from my grandmother, the Queen of Belize, on the occasion of her Platinum Jubilee. She always speaks so fondly of her visits to Belize, which of course included a memorable stop here at Cahal Pech in 1994. And she may have mentioned something about a gibnut.
Sadly, tragedy also befell the royal family this year. Queen Elizabeth II passed away in September, bringing to an end the longest reign for a monarch in the Commonwealth. The world grieved, and so did Belizeans who remembered the late Queen of England fondly.
It's very sad for the Commonwealth and for Belize. Well, she's gone home to Jesus. We are grateful to the monarchy, the UK, for the system of government that they left us. We live in a monarchical democracy.
Sylvia Waite may not have been in the country on both visits by Queen Elizabeth II, but says she's grateful for the system of education that the country has benefited from. But unlike Waite, there were many Belizeans, government officials, diplomats, and ordinary people who had the honor of greeting and, in some cases, performing and dining with the Queen. Back in 1985, at age 22, Josephine Flowers, now the vice principal of Edward P. York High School, had the privilege of dancing for the Queen.
Not only was it an honor, I tell you, because to be chosen, it was they took some from every company. So, and then we got to be a part of the Bud Bank wedding, which was the first time a production like that was done in Belize. So it was like Bob Reno was the person, and I have never been in any of the creative dancing with Mr. Bob Reno. So that was what made it more enjoyable. And then to know that not only that we got to be so up close and personal with the Queen, it was how their reaction to our dance also. So that's what make it. And we had a lot of people in it. I know I could tell you, like Althea Seeley, Evolia Palmer. We had, I think, well, Rosita is no longer with us. Joycelyn McCoy. I could remember, it was a lot. I was in the Creole section, so we did a number, balancing the basket on our knee and doing everything else that you could think about. In
the last visit, Flowers, as a teacher, took her students by Palotti High School to witness the Queen's procession. Also lining the streets of Belize City in 85 and 94 was Jean Reyes, a scout guider. Remembering the royal visits like it was yesterday, she shares the excitement of meeting the Queen, calling it an expensive experience.
I can recall where the flag monument is. The monument wasn't there at the time, but they had all the barricades and everything, and all of our brownies, guides, rangers, leaders, we were all dressed up, excited to meet the Queen. And I was at the forefront with the little girls, right? So that was an experience for me. I can remember like yesterday. She was, it was so nice that you had to curtsy to her and all of this too, because they taught us before. The little girls were well behaved, well disciplined. They met with her, she chatted with them, she asked them about their badges on the sashes. They were really, really excited.
On the home front, we also mourn the passing of Sir Manuel Esquivel earlier this year. While the funeral of the monarch would be a global spectacle, the farewell to Belize's former prime minister was stately, but much more private, relatively speaking.
The state memorial for the late Dr. Sir Manuel Esquivel commenced at 1 p.m. sharp. As Lady Katia Esquivel and one of her daughters were escorted into a waiting pickup, out came 4 BDF soldiers, one of whom carried the remains of the former two-time Prime Minister in an urn. As the national anthem was played by the BDF band, it was a solemn moment as residents stood watch while his children and grandchildren walked behind them. The motorcade traveled down Queen Street over the Swing Bridge and onto Albert Street before making its way to the final stop at the House of Culture on Regent Street. While vehicular traffic was barred from obstructing the path of the motorcade, some residents braved the rains to witness the event.
I remember running in the Belize City Council election in 1996 and 2003. And I still have the letter that he signed thanking me for participating and contributing where I can. It is really a sad day to see someone like Dr. Manuel Esquivel leaving us in the way he did. He had a lot to offer, and I was able to glean some of that little history from him. So it is really a sad day, and personally, I think he stands out as the best Prime Minister this country has ever seen. I don't think many people would argue with that.
Due to COVID regulations at the House of Culture, the white picket fence and the military and police guards separated a few residents who carried umbrellas, paying their respects from a distance.
I'm just out here to pay my respect for our past leader of the country, someone who some might say didn't do very much good, but to me, everyone who leads the country did something good for the country. So I'm just here to pay my respect for a man who served the country as a...
Do you have any memory of him when he was a leader or anything like that? How old were you when that?
Well, I would say I was a young boy. I was early teenager, I would say. So I won't have many fond memories, but the only memories that sticks around will be the one that they broadcast on the news. I won't say what it is. Everyone know what they broadcast on the news, but I would say there are other better things to say about the man than that, so I will not say that.
The official viewing began just after 2 p.m. when Prime Minister John Bressene was escorted into the state room inside the House of Culture. The media wasn't allowed to enter the compound, but we did manage to capture the arrivals. Leader of the opposition, Shine Barrow, was also among the list of government officials to attend.
He did not want a funeral. He wanted a celebration with musicians. So that we have in common. I being a musician and very passionate for the fine arts. And what I contemplate about Sir Dr. Esquivel, as I had said in my Facebook post, was his prudent and collective governance in speaking to people who were there in that era. One of the things that is most noteworthy about his leadership is the fact that he did not do things for individuals, but he did things for the collective. So it was never about a quid pro quo as much as it was about the nation and having systematic impact, collective impact.
Yeah, right now we're just trying to clear out the shops. I think everybody down here at the market side has been trying to clear out the shops. We're just trying to take out all of our stuff because, as you can see, the water is close to rising. If we wait until another 2 hours, an hour, our shops may be covered like what happened, I think, 2 years ago, right? Well, like I said, 1 hour, 2 hours, we could already see it by a doorstep, so we have to take out everything right now from also here and from my uncle's shop, the tour guide place.
Could you speak to me about the loss that you guys experienced last time this happened? I think everything was destroyed.
Well, inside we had to paint everything over. I believe we lost the AC. We weren't able to get everything out in time, but we just managed to get out the showcase. We managed to get out some, the smaller things, but we weren't able to take out the bigger things. So we had to purchase new AC, new fridge, because once it gets soaked with water, we can't do anything.
Extreme weather events during the past 12 months have also resulted in significant domestic and commercial losses. Residents prepared for flood waters to inundate the twin towns of San Ignacio and Santa Elena in October, as the passage of Hurricane Julia elsewhere in the region brought with it torrential rains in the west. Several weeks later, central Belize was rocked by a Category 1 storm that tore through Belize City before making its way to other parts of the district.
Families in the Port Loyola area of Belize City were severely impacted by the strong winds and heavy rains that Hurricane Lisa brought ashore.
The experience was very terrifying because this weather come up and we unexpected. They didn't give us chance to try bring down stuff and thing. Everything get wet up the bed, everything from my bed get wet up.
Cynthia Anderson is the matriarch of her family home on Freedom Street. She, along with her daughters and children, 12 of them combined, were forced to hunker down inside a small wooden structure on the property after her daughter's second-floor home collapsed.
When they feel the house, the shakes, so they hurry run down with the baby, with my grandson, that is 10 months old, run down with him and thing and start to scramble the thing and bring down, and the first half of the house gone. Well, what actually happened, the zinc blow off of my grandson's room first, and then the wind pick up the half of the top and gone with that, and afterwards the next half gone. And then after that, the whole house started to go apart.
Unofficially, as many as 50 houses collapsed in Belize City during the cyclone. There is an abundance of zinc sheets strewn across many properties as rooftops were torn off residential and commercial structures.
The whole roof, the interior inside, the appliance, everything gone. Nothing saved. So that happened about 3 o'clock. Yes, when the weather was passing.
I gathered that you stayed at home yesterday through the passage.
Staying at home. We were staying at home and sitting down, and we were watching the wind, and you just hear one nice. And I was sitting at the table. I get up 5 minutes to get a glass of water, and then the whole roof came in.
Less than 24 hours after the passage of Hurricane Lisa, Prime Minister John Briceño took to the sky to assess the extent of the damage from above.
We took a flew over Belize City. We saw a lot of roofs and some houses that were damaged. We saw some areas that still had some flooding, especially in Belama phase 4 and 5, Minister. Yeah, where we still have water in those areas. We went into Ladyville, also got substantial damage on Lord's Bank, Hattieville, and then after that it's mostly agriculture. We flew all the way over by Santander. We have several hundreds of acres of cane land that has been leveled by the hurricane. So we are grateful, also thankful actually, that most of the water has run out from Belize City, despite the tremendous amount of floodings that we had. Pretty much the whole city was underwater for a number of hours. Many of these developed countries, they don't feel what we go through. For instance, a hurricane hits Florida, it's less than 1% of GDP. One hurricane hits a small country like Belize, we have a substantial amount of damage, and it costs us a lot to be able to rebuild back.
A city-wide cleanup effort, perhaps the largest of its kind in the wake of a natural disaster, was undertaken in the ensuing days. The coming together of the business community and the government saw heavy equipment and manpower being used to truck tons of garbage and debris out of the old capital.
Wide cross-section of stakeholders, both public and private sector, and we have been able very quickly to mobilize, get 18 backhoes, about 20 dump trucks, as well as human resources. Over close to 200 human resource personnel will be on the ground today. We want to deploy all these personnel across the entire city for the next 3 days so that we could really achieve the positive outcomes we are looking for in respect to cleaning up this city.
In 2020, many of the stories that made the evening news were based on events that are drawn from everyday life. For this short segment, we'll throw in a wild card, coverage of a story that was unusual and, as such, gained significant attention from our viewers. Our unpredictable story of the year was the sighting of a Greenland shark in Belizean waters.
It is one of the rarest sightings in this part of the world, a Greenland shark in the Western Caribbean Sea. The Greenland shark is one of the largest cartilaginous fish with a body temperature of less than 35 degrees Fahrenheit, the same as the water it inhabits far north in the Arctic and North Atlantic Oceans. Back in May, Hector Martinez and a team of researchers with Moat Marine Laboratory and Aquarium were out at Glover's Reef conducting research when they caught a Greenland shark in a most unlikely environment.
We went out on the east side of Glover's. We set the line down from Northeast Key. Went maybe half mile out Northeast Key and went southeast. It got really windy, so we couldn't pull the line as often as we wanted. So we waited until morning, and when we went up to pull the line, the anchor that we had dropped, probably half mile out northeast key, had swung all the way around to maybe 2.5 miles, 3 miles from where we dropped it. So we're like, there has to be something big on that line to drag that thing far out. And the line's pretty long, so it's pretty heavy.
Martinez and his crew spent the next 2 hours pulling the shark to surface. At first, the captain of the boat, Martinez's uncle, thought that they had captured an Atlantic 6-gill shark, a more common sighting in these parts.
When I first saw it coming up, I was controlling the hydraulic motor that we used to pull the line, and I looked down, and the captain, my uncle, he's like, something's coming up. No one ever thought it was that. And I see it, it looks this big, like this long, but this wide. So I was like, what the hell is that? And as it kept coming closer up, it looked like a monster. I stepped back. Like, shit, is this thing gonna jump in the boat? But once we floated up, we saw what it was. We didn't think it was a Greenland shark.
Without accurately identifying the shark, the team took a video and proceeded to release the beast. Through that video, Damian Chapman, the director of Sharks and Rays Conservation Research at Moat Marine Laboratory and Aquarium, identified the shark as a Greenland shark. It is the first time in the history that a Greenland shark has been found in the Western Caribbean Sea.
Well, the Greenland shark belongs in Greenland. It has that name for a reason, so it belongs in Greenland. I think it's up in Canada a lot. So that is like the main amazing part. It doesn't belong in Belize, and also it's never been recorded in Belize to my knowledge. Well, when we go out there, we're always curious to see what's coming up from the depths, and I hope to catch a white shark one of these days. I don't know if that day will come, but you probably heard that they spotted orcas off Aranguana Key several years back, right? So we definitely get some rare creatures out there. So yeah, there's definitely that hope of catching something even, well, I don't know if we'll ever catch something rarer than that, because that's very rare, but
it's like lottery, right?
It's like lottery. It's like lottery. You probably have a better chance winning the lottery.
Reporting for News 5, I am Paul Lopez.
As we say goodbye to 2022, we'll do so on a positive note. This year, we introduced a new weekly segment called Brightside with news anchor Sabrina Daly. Her pick for the most motivating story yet is one she did on Jardine Flores, a single mother who, after leaving school several years ago, decided to return to the classroom to pursue her dream of a sound education, despite the many challenges she experienced.
According to UNICEF, there is not yet a standard description or classification for kids with special needs in Belize. The lack of a definition makes it difficult to research the extent of children's disabilities. Jardine's case made acquiring knowledge exceptionally difficult. She graduated Stella Maris and enlisted at a formal high school. Only a few months in, she faced discrimination because of her disability and eventually failed the first year.
I'm a failed first farm, and I was bullied there too, and my cat take bullied. And so I just cry because I know if I fight this time, they can kick me out. And I cry and come home, come complain to my mom. Mama said, just ignore that. You share my stomach. I said, no, but I can't take bullied.
Were they bullying you because of the school that you came from? Because you came from Stella Maris? Jardine then chose the alternative to formal learning through trade school. She enrolled and graduated from YWCA, then enrolled and graduated from IT Vet. She shared with us her love of cooking that she learned from her mom's food business. But she wanted more.
After I graduated from IT Vet, I told my mom, I still want to go to school no more. She said, you still want to go to school, Jardine? I said, yes. You don't tell me if I really want to be a social worker, I have to go to school and I really want to be a social worker. Nobody's perfect, but I know that dealing with young people and toddlers and so grown-up children, it's difficult. And you always need that support. Even if you don't get it from home, you have the support outside from different organization, and I want to give back. Just like how social worker talk to me, I want to talk to other children too.
The aspiring social worker started the Gwen Liz Evening Division School. But fulfilling her dream was then interrupted after she became pregnant with a baby boy. As a result, she failed her last year.
Mama said, Mama go to me and said, by hook or by crook, you're going back to school either you want or not. I tell Mama I don't want to go back. I don't give up. Somebody forced me to go back. I go back. And I go to school. When school starts again, I went to school and I said, maybe I'm in the warm. And my mother made my baby and I have to try and find for pass.
And pass she did. Hi, Shad. Hi. During our interview, we got a visit from the little boy that now shares her accomplishments. Jardine is a symbol of perseverance. And at the age of 25, almost a year ago, she set another goal for herself. She wanted to finish 4th form.
I said, who 25? I said, but anyways, I go in my uniform. And I don't care what nobody say. And anybody who make any bad comment, they know follow me. So, and I said, see, the run and wait for anybody. So, 1 hour I say to us a smile and I say, follow me, let's go. Once you go no more, no go to school.
With that, we end our review of the past 12 months and the riveting stories that were told from our news desk. We look forward to returning in a new year with many more stories to keep you informed, educated, and entertained. From all of us here at News 5, Happy New Year.